Good morning children. Today we are going to learn about the new chapter, chapter 5, Introduction to Euclid's Geometry. It is little bit about a history of mathematics only, and particularly for this academic year, CBSE deleted this portion. So there is no need of writing the notes in classwork and homework. But why I am explaining this chapter means coming chapter, some of the words, terms, definitions we are using from this chapter. So whichever is required, that much only I am explaining here. The word geometry came from Greek word geo meaning earth, metrin meaning is to measure. That is geometry word, if you see, it can be divided into two. One is geo, that means earth, metri meaning is to measure. It is believed that the geometry is originated from the need of measuring land. If you go for the real life examples of measuring land, you know that they will take the measurements, length, breadth, like that, and shapes will come there. So you can see that geometry is connected to measuring land always. It is said that the Egyptians developed a number of geometric techniques and rules for calculating areas and volumes. It is also given a history in your textbook regarding Egyptians. What is that means? River Nile overflowed it and wiped the boundaries of adjoining fields. After such flooding, these boundaries had to be redrawn. For this purpose only, Egyptians developed geometry. The knowledge of geometry was also used by them for computing volumes, areas, constructing pyramids, etc. So again they continued the history about the Indian geometry development and many examples of other countries geometry development. That is not necessary for this particular academic year, so I am not explaining. So whatever is important concept here, that is I am going to explain just. So a Greek mathematician Thales is credited for giving the first proof. That is, the proof was that circle is bisected by its diameter. You already know that when a diameter is drawn in a circle, it divided the circle into two equal parts. This proof, with the proof, it was given by Thales only, one of the great Greek mathematician. Later, they came into the picture means which mathematician means Pythagoras. You are very familiar with Pythagoras theorem and all. He developed the theory of geometry to a certain extent also. This process is continued till 300 BC. At that time, Euclid, a teacher of mathematics at Alexandria in Egypt, collected the known work and arranged it in his famous treatise called Elements. He divided the elements into 13 chapters, each called a book. That means whatever is available till that day, he summarized all the details and recorded the data. He was the only first person to record all the data related to geometry. So that is why his book is very famous and correlated in geometry. So whenever anything is coming, this book is the greatest reference for us. So it is not, we cannot say that whatever is stated in the Euclid's book is his own idea only. He summarized what is available till that day. And what is his book's name? It is called Elements. There 13 chapters are there. Each chapter's name he gave as book only. A few definitions in book 1 are given below. From the Euclid book Elements, the first chapter, that is the book 1, he stated 23 definitions like that. So from that, some of the definitions are listed here. What is that? First one is, a point is that which has no part. Point means a dot only, right? Which has no part. According to him, there is no part for point. Now a line is breadthless length. That means there is no breadth for a line. It is clear. The end of the lines are points. I'll explain one by one. First, I'll read the statements. A straight line is a line which lies evenly with the points in itself. So a line is a breadthless length means what we can say. When we draw a line, there is no breadth. We we will tell that length of the line only. So there is no measurement for breadth, and it is a single dimensions. Now what we can say that the ends of the lines are points. Today's concept, we can extend the line at any extent, but when we know that when we are making a line, it is joined point to point only, right? So that is why the ends of the lines are points. He may be explained like that. A straight line is a line which lies evenly with the points on the line. So according to the line idea, we know that which is to be a point to point, we have joined and complete the line, right? So when a straight line means it lies within the points only. Now what is the surface? Now a surface is that which has a length and breadth. This paper itself is an example for surface. So length and breadth, that is a two-dimensional figures always. So when we are taking the surface, we will draw a rectangle. If you take, what happens here, you will get the lines only. So what is the edges of the surface? Edges of the surface are lines. That only he explained. A plane surface is a surface. That means this example we can take which lies evenly within the straight line itself. We cannot say line segment, that word is not familiar that time. We have to say which lies evenly with the straight line on itself, because it can be extended. A plane surface means it can be extended for all the four directions, right? So these are the points we have used in our own way in today's mathematics, but he already explained at that time only in his book. So what was the first point? A point that which has no part. A line is a breadthless length. It is nothing else. Line is having only one measurement. The ends of the lines are points, with the idea that when we are drawing a line, we are joining point to points only. So a straight line is a line which lies evenly with the points itself. Now surface, two dimensions if you are coming, it is has length and breadth only. The edges of the surface are lines only. So when a surface means it lies evenly within the straight lines itself. Now what I want to say that in continuation of this means, if we carefully go through these points, a point is that which has no part. Again we can say that it is something need to be explained here, because a point means it's a dot only. Dot has some dimensions. We can say that area, it requires some area. So when a point is to be explained, areas to be explained, right? So like that, a line is to be explained, then line is joined by point, again areas to be explained. So like that, if we carefully go through the statements, we can see that many terms are to be explained for getting the full idea of that statements. So in today's mathematics, the mathematicians had considered that, agreed that there may be some geometrical terms which are undefined. So we told that undefined terms. That is why whatever terms you have seen in that one, point, line, plane or surface, has considered as a undefined terms in today's geometry. So when a branch will start, there may be some terms which are unable to explain, or starting the definitions we need to explain some basic concepts. So in geometry we are taking that these three are undefined terms. Which are they? Point, line and plane. Plane means a surface. According to plane surface, we can say according to Euclid geometry. So the three undefined terms in geometry are point, line and a plane surface. Now what is the next point means? Starting with his definitions, he assumed that certain properties cannot be proved. Now these assumptions are actually truths, universal truth only. He divided them into two types, axioms and postulates. This is very important word for us for the coming topics, axioms and postulates. That means axioms and postulates are two concepts which are universal truths. You already know this one. We are using also while proving the theorems and definitions. But sometimes what will happen, we will write that Euclid's axiom, Euclid's postulates while proving the geometry. And as you know that already we have mentioned in many times in the classes that in class 9th mainly deals with the geometry portions more. There you have to learn more about axioms, postulates, applications we have to do. That is why we are explaining this chapter like this. So what he told, he continued his definitions with the idea of this one, he told that many properties cannot be proved, that is that can be considered as a universal truth. So he divided this universal truth into two parts, which are the one is axiom, another one is postulate. He used, I explained that axiom and postulate. So postulate means these all are assumptions, whether it is axioms or whether it is a postulate, both are assumptions only. But postulate is that assumption which are specific to geometry, which are specifically we are using in the branch geometry only. What is the meaning of postulate? Both are assumption only, but that are specifically linked to geometry. What is the axioms? Axioms again assumptions, but used throughout mathematics and not specifically linked to geometry. Means any branch of mathematics we can use axioms, and you will come to know. I'll give the examples for axioms as well as postulate only, but you should realize that both are universal truth and there is no need of proof, and without a proof we can accept that one, right? So axioms are used anywhere, but postulates are using only in the branch geometry only. Postulates are using specifically in geometry. Now let us see the examples for axioms. Some of the Euclid's axioms, not in his order, are given below. These already we are applied Euclid axioms when we studied mathematics in our lower classes and all. We will go through one by one. Things which are equal to the same thing are equal to one another. Things which are equal to the same thing are equal to one another. What is the meaning of this? If A equal to B, right? B equal to C. This shows that A should be equal to C. Things which are equal to the same thing. That means A and C are equal to B only. That means A and C are also equal, right? Things which are equal to the same thing are equal to one another. This we already know that one. If A equal to B, B equal to C, then A equal to C only. Now, if equals are added to equals, the whole are equal. Now listen, this sentence, if equals are added to equals, the whole are equal. Equals are subtracted from equals, the remainders are equal. This concept we have used while solving the simple equations. When we are writing that x plus 2 equal to 7, right? That means equation is a balanced one. If we are adding this one, equals are added to this side. So I'm adding 3 here, means I should add 7 plus 3 here. So equals are added to the equals. Equals means 3 are added to the equals. The same concept we have used while solving the simple equations chapter. Same only here also. Equals are subtracted from equals, then the remainders are equal. Now what is the fourth one? Things which coincides with one another are equal to one another. That means when we are studying the congruency criteria, you may be remembering the word superimposing with each other. Means we will keep one triangle on the other. If they superimpose each other, then they are equal to one another. So the word coincide is applicable in congruency criteria, right? The copies of the same passport size photos, so one upon the other we are keeping, they are equally covering each other or superimposing, exactly covering is happening. That is why they coincide with each other, means they equal to one another. The whole is greater than part. Who does not know this one? You tell me. Whole is greater than part. This concept we are using in your pie chart and then fractions, everywhere you are using. But this considered as a universal truth. Now you understood the idea of what he meant there. He told that axioms and postulates are the universal truth. See, whole is greater than part. Everybody know that whole is greater than part only. So this concept, the statement he meant that universal truth means we are using here and there. Now he specifically told that axioms are using everywhere but not postulates. Postulates are using in geometry. Now we are dealing with the axioms only. With this example, you know that the statement is, the idea is very clear to you. When you are taking a line segment from a line, you know that line is the greater one, line segment is a part of line only. So always whole is greater than part. Now the sixth and seventh seventh, again the idea of the concept, the things which are double the same things are equal to one another. The same concept when we are doing the multiplications or the simplifications, and we are dividing with the simple equations. When solving the simple equations, you are used all the four operations. Sometimes we have to add, sometimes subtract, sometimes we have to multiply, sometimes we have to divide. That is the way we are solving there. So things which are double of the same things are equal to one another. Things which are half of the same things are equal to one another. So the previous concepts, that is equation 2 and 3, that is when we are adding something to the equals, then also the whole equal. When we are subtracting also, the remainders are equal. Same way, when you double the things, when the equals are doubled or multiplied with any number on both the sides, then also the product are equal. Similarly, when you are divide something, sum of the equals, then also they are equal to each other. So all these concepts somewhere we have used already without knowing that it is all Euclid axioms only. I think you understood the idea of what is an axiom. Axiom is a universal truth which can be accepted without proof, and it is using everywhere, all the branches of mathematics. Now Euclid's 5 postulates. Now we have to learn postulate 1. A straight line may be drawn from any one point to any other point. Now graph only are drawn. When that time only I told that for any 2 points if you take, we can complete a line. So at least 2 points were required for completing the line. So today's mathematics, they accepted this statement as an axiom. He considered this as a postulate only because I just remind what is the meaning of postulate. It is a universal truth, but it is specifically linked to geometry. Straight line, we have to drawing a straight line and all related to geometry only. So from this today's world, that he said that at least 2 points required for drawing the straight line. But today, what is the concept behind this line means, it is considered as an axiom. Given 2 distinct points, there is a unique line that passes through them. That means if you take a single dot, you can draw many lines, right? But when you are taking 2 points, it should passes through the 2 points, means we can draw only one line, right? So that we can draw one line when you are taking the 2 points. Any single dot, if you are taking many lines at the same time, 2 distinct points is given, we can draw one and only one line. Now what is the postulate 2? A terminated line can be produced indefinitely. Terminated line means today we are using the word line segment, right? Today what we are using, line segment. Line segment can be extended, then it will be a line. Understood? Both this side we can. A terminated line means line segment can be produced indefinitely. Then today we are telling that line segment, if you are producing, we are using the term line only. Now what is the third postulate? A circle can be drawn with any center and any radius. That you know that very well. When we are taking the radius 3, then also with the center and the radius measurement 3 centimeter, we can draw the circle. Now new circle I want to draw with the different radius, then center I can take, and the radius also I can draw. Otherwise concentric circle we can draw that with the same center and the different radius. A circle can be drawn with any center and any radius. Now fourth postulate, all right angles are equal to one another. What is the measurement of right angle? It's everywhere it is equal to 90 degree. So all right angles are equal to one another. What I should explain on this statement is every right angle equal to 90 degree. Now the fifth postulate, if a straight line falling on 2 straight lines make the interior angles on the same side of it taken together less than 2 right angles, then the 2 straight lines, if you produced indefinitely, meet on that side on which the sum of the angle is less than 2 right angles. Don't confuse after seeing the long statement. What is the meaning of this one? Means if a straight line falling on 2 straight line, so I'll draw one straight line is like this, and one is, I'll take it as like this, and a straight line falling on this, right? Now you know that the concept of parallel lines, the same concept only he is telling in a different way. What is that? Means if a straight line, this one, that is L I'll take, falling on 2 straight lines, one is M, another one is N. And they makes an interior angle on the same side of the transversal. Angle 1 and angle 2, interior angle on the same side of the line. If we taken together, it is less than 2 right angles. If it is less than 2 right angles, that means if we produced these lines, they will meet. If they meet on that side on which the sum of the angle is less than 2 right angles. I can make you more clear that if 2 lines are parallel and a transversal cuts 2 parallel lines, and what is the interior angles sum on the same side of the transversal? It is equal to 180 degree, right? When 2 parallel lines are cut by a transversal, that is we learned already, that means L cut the 2 parallel lines M and N such that angle 1 and angle 2's sum equal to 180 degree, then the lines are parallel only. That is the concept we have learned. When 2 lines cut by a transversal, 2 lines cut by a transversal, then the interior angle on the same side of the transversal, if it is equal to sum equal to 180 degree, then we can say the line is parallel. Or else, if M parallel to N and it is cut by a transversal, sum of the interior angles is equal to 180 degree. Both the way you have learned. So what I'll repeat once again. When a transversal cut 2 parallel lines, then the interior angles on the same side of the transversal is 180 degree. Or when a line cut 2 other lines in such a way that the co-interior angles are supplementary, then the 2 lines are parallel. The same concept only he told. Here we are taking the sum as 180 degree, but here what he told, if it is less than, the 2 angles sum is less than 180 degree, then the lines will meet at one point. Parallel lines will never meet. So when it is equal to 180 degree, the line will never meet. That means the lines are parallel. When it is less than 180 degree, that will meet at one point. That is only he told. The idea is already we applied, where we applied co-interior angles are supplementary when a transversal cut 2 parallel lines. So in our conclusion, what I want to say that Euclid enters the history as one of the greatest all mathematicians, and he is often referred to as father of geometry. The standard geometry most of us learned in school is called Euclidean geometry only. So he is considered as a father of geometry because most of his ideas only we are applying in our daily life or geometry branch, right? So today's class I am winding up with this concept because this chapter, why we are explaining here means that the word axioms and postulates have the applications in the coming chapter. So just to go through the video and understand the concept or the words what we have explained here. There is nothing to worry about this topic because this chapter is excluded for this academic year only. So go through the video once again, that is enough for you, and I'm winding up the class today. Thank you.